Chapter 1: The Time Illusion: Why You Never Have Enough. There is a silent myth that is driving much of the stress in our modern world, the myth that there simply is not enough time. We are all racing against the clock, trying to stay one step ahead of our never-ending to-do lists, but the finish line keeps moving. The issue isn't the number of hours in the day. The issue is how we perceive time, how we use it, and how we allow it to dictate our sense of self-worth. This chapter is about shattering the illusion and starting over. 1.1 The universal complaint: I don't have time. The phrase, I don't have time, is so common in our everyday conversations that we never really take the time to think about whether or not it's even true. It's become a crutch that we use as a way of politely declining invitations, putting off dreams, and shirking responsibilities. It seems harmless enough, but this statement is one of the most disempowering things that you can say to yourself. The fact of the matter is that every single person alive has the same amount of time every day: 1,440 minutes, 86,400 seconds, 24 hours. So, if time is equal, why do some people seem to thrive, while others feel constantly behind? The answer lies not in the clock, but in the choices we make within the clock's limits. When someone says, I don't have time, what they usually mean is, that's not a priority right now. It's not that you didn't have the 10 minutes to stretch or the hour to write. It's that something else took its place in your hierarchy of importance. That may sound harsh, but it's also liberating, because it puts the power back in your hands. If something isn't a priority, you can choose to change that. The act of admitting that you have put another thing first in your life than what you say is important to you is hard. It takes integrity, awareness, and the strength to stop pointing fingers at time and start accepting responsibility for your own life. But it also gives you for the possibility of liberation. It transforms your perspective from one of being a prisoner of time to being the ruler of time. You begin to understand that what controls the day isn't external forces but your personal choices. It was not the schedule controlling you, but rather you giving into its power because you were doing too many things or not telling no early enough. Changing the way you speak is the very first step toward a transformational process. Rather than stating, I don't have time for exercising, say instead, I'm choosing not to make exercise a priority right now. With these few words alone, you acknowledge the situation and open up to potential solutions. This isn't about shaming yourself. It's about gaining clarity. You can't change what you don't acknowledge, and acknowledging how you're using your time gives you the insight needed to begin using it better. Most of what you want to do in life is already within reach. It just requires a reorganization of priorities and a release of what no longer serves your vision. That's not a time problem. That's a choice problem. You don't need more time. You need more truth. And when you begin to live by that truth, time will no longer feel like something that slips away. It will begin to feel like something you're finally in control of. 1.2 The lie hidden in busyness. 1.2 Busy people are often untruthful. Being busy is one of the biggest myths in today's world. It appears to be efficient, feels efficient, and it receives a lot of praise from society. If you inform someone that you are so busy, he or she will appreciate it because, in the eyes of people, your busyness proves that you matter. However, being busy is not always a good thing, as it often conceals more than just an active schedule. Sometimes it is a means of procrastination and lack of boundaries or understanding of what is really important. People get out of bed in the morning and immediately become slaves of their hectic lives because of all those emails to reply to, meetings to attend, programs to check, tasks to complete, and they do all this without giving it a thought whether all this corresponds with their priorities or not. We have made busyness into a state of mind where we try to hide our inability to make difficult choices, solve long-standing problems, or pursue our dreams. Being busy also makes for an excellent cover-up. If I'm busy, I don't have to be confronted by my lack of activity related to my long-term goals. If I'm busy, then I don't risk failing at an undertaking. It's a cozy trap, and a dangerous one. But as time passes, this trap becomes a cage, keeping us bound in a cycle of exhaustion and frustration. What is even more terrifying is the simple fact that most people do not recognize when they find themselves in this trap. In order to escape the lie, we must first embrace the radical honesty of our activities and their purpose. It is not sufficient to examine only how many things we manage to do in a day, but rather whether all those things brought us closer to our goals, or rather simply kept us busy. When will we stop being reactive and start being proactive? Great thinkers do not necessarily work harder, they simply work smarter. They have come to learn that in order for them to embrace what matters, they first have to refuse what doesn't matter. Urgency does not motivate them, only clarity does. That's the shift we have to make, from quantity to quality, from activity to significance. Stop using being busy as your badge of honor. It isn't one at all, it is simply an indicator that you are off track. Stop trying to fill every second with some activity, no matter how insignificant. Stop filling time and start adding value to it. When you switch from being busy to being focused, you go from exhaustion to fulfillment. 1.3 Time is not a resource, it's a relationship. We have been trained to think about time in terms of money. We talk about spending time, saving time, wasting time, and investing time, as if it were a commodity in a bank account. While this metaphor may be useful in explaining the value of time, it is nowhere near a good description of what time actually is in relation to our experience of it. Unlike money, time cannot be earned, saved, or recovered. Once time is lost, it is lost forever. This is to say that time is not a transactional resource, but a relational one. We experience it with us, not just with it. And as with all relational experiences, the quality of your experience is up to you. Think of your relationship with time the same way you'd think of a relationship with a person. Do you respect it, or do you take it for granted until you're running out of it? Do you cherish quiet moments and give yourself breathing room, or do you overbook every day, crowding time out with tasks and obligations? If time were a person in your life, would it feel honored or abused? These are not abstract questions, they're mirrors for how you live. Your beliefs about time directly influence your daily behaviors, your emotional well-being, and your long-term satisfaction. When people describe themselves as always behind, never having enough time, or constantly overwhelmed, they are revealing the state of their relationship with time. These phrases point to tension, frustration, and distrust. They signal a conflict between what one wants to do and what one believes is possible. And just like in human relationships, that gap between expectation and reality leads to resentment. Over time, this resentment morphs into time anxiety, a low-grade panic that you're always late, always missing out, always falling short. That anxiety isn't a schedule issue. It's a belief issue. To start the process of healing your relationship with time, you first have to stop trying to control it. Time is not something that can be controlled by force. You cannot will yourself to be more efficient, to get more out of the day by working harder. What you have to do is to establish a partnership with time. This involves being aware of one's energy, leading an existence that is consistent with one's beliefs, and giving oneself permission to lead a life that is not rushed and hurried, but clear. You will continue to strive, but you will never again be rushed. You will continue to plan, but you will never again be frantic. This shift requires intention. You must be willing to break free from cultural norms that say success is found in 16-hour days and jam-packed calendars. You must stop comparing your pace to others and start focusing on your own path. You must understand that presence, not perfection, is the ultimate measure of a good life, because at the end of the day, how you feel about your time is how you feel about your life. Handle time with the same respect that you would give to a trusted friend. Talk to it nicely. Use it well. Be truthful with it. Treat it with respect, and it will treat you with respect. When you do this, time expands. You feel as if you are lighter, clearer, and more in control, not because time has changed, but because you have. Your calendar is more than just a reflection of your schedule. It is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. 1.4 Where your time actually goes. Most people are confident they know how they spend their time until they're asked to track it. That's when the truth emerges. Our perceptions of time and our actual usage of it often have very little in common. We believe we've worked a solid 8 hours, when in reality we've had maybe 3 or 4 hours of deep focus. We think we don't have time to relax, but somehow manage to spend hours on our phones or mindlessly multitasking. This isn't a judgment, it's a wake-up call. You can't change what you can't see, and most people are blind to where their time is really going. Time audit. This is one of the most enlightening activities you can undertake. For just 2 or 3 days, record every 30-minute chunk of your time. Record exactly what you did. No sugarcoating, no excuses. Record everything. The scrolling, the snacking, the pointless meetings, the rechecking of your email, the time spent in decision limbo. And then, as a detective, examine it all. Look for patterns. Look for waste. Look for opportunities. What you will discover will probably surprise you. Most people are not lazy or unmotivated. They're simply unaware. Awareness is what creates clarity, and clarity is what creates change. Once you know where your time is leaking, you can begin to plug the holes. You'll discover that you don't need to overhaul your life. You need to remove the distractions that are pulling you in 100 directions. You need to simplify, prioritize, and protect the time you already have. Time loss doesn't happen in big chunks. It happens in the spaces between. It happens in the 12 minutes you spend scrolling Instagram between tasks, the 22 minutes you waste overthinking an email, the 45 minutes lost to distractions because you didn't create a protected block of focus. It happens not because you're doing nothing, but because you're doing too many little things that don't matter. The answer is not to work harder, but to work smarter, with clear intention. It is impossible to lead an organized life while paying attention to too many things at once. There has to be systems, there has to be guardrails, and there needs to be someone who controls their time. By knowing your habits, you are able to disrupt them. Asking yourself, is this the best use of my energy right now, can have a significant impact on how you conduct yourself. Time tracking doesn't need to become a daily habit. It only needs to be done occasionally to recalibrate. Think of it like adjusting your compass. You don't need to stare at it every step of the way, but you do need to make sure you're still heading in the right direction. Most people aren't making poor time choices out of laziness, they're doing it because they're guessing. Data ends guessing. Data gives you direction. When you know where your time is going, you can begin to take it back. And when you take your time back, you begin to take your life back. 1.5 Time anxiety, the modern mental trap. Time anxiety is the silent epidemic that nobody is talking about. It is the stress that you feel even on your day off, the guilt that says you should be doing more, the feeling that you are always running behind, even when there is nothing pressing on your agenda. Time anxiety is not driven by external deadlines or emergencies. It is an internal experience. It is an emotional experience. It is a result of a mindset that thinks you are always behind, no matter how much you get done or how early you get up. This fear is sustained by modern culture without reprieve. We glorify speed, efficiency, and always being on. We're expected to respond in a flash, to deliver faster, and to optimize everything, all while enjoying the ride. But our brains weren't wired for this kind of speed. We were wired for focus, for rhythm, and for deliberate cycles of work and rest. When every waking moment is filled with the need to be productive, the nervous system is put into a state of low-grade panic. This kind of pressure doesn't sharpen our performance, it just dulls us. The worst part about time anxiety is that it often disguises itself as motivation. It makes us feel like we're being diligent, hardworking, ambitious. But it's actually rooted in fear. Fear of falling behind, of not being enough, of disappointing others. Instead of being inspired by our vision, we're driven by our fear of inadequacy. This fear corrodes joy. It turns meaningful work into constant tension and makes rest feel like failure. Time anxiety also causes you to lose trust in time itself. You begin to perceive it as a resource that is limited, elusive, and unkind. Every moment becomes a challenge. Every pause becomes an opportunity wasted. You can never be in the moment because you are always living in the future, where time dries up.